Good morning, everyone. This is Father Nate, missionary priest in Italy, and thanks for joining us today, March 2nd, on No Greater Delight, our podcast on Marian feasts and Marian meditations. Well, today's feast will take us to Germany, Italy, and Spain. So let's start off with our apparition in Spain, properly called the Our Lady of Apparitions in Madrid, Spain. So the Abbot Orsini gives us this date, March 2nd, although it might be considered more appropriate to be March 3rd, because that's the first day of the apparition. But whatever, the Abbot Orsini knows what he's talking about. And he says, Our Lady of Apparitions at Madrid, so called because in the year 1449, the Blessed Virgin appeared during the eight following days to a young woman named Ives, and ordered her to build a church in her honor, on the spot where she should find a cross planted to Our Lady. So this took place in a municipality in Spain in the province and community of Madrid. It's called Cubas de la Sagra. So these apparitions, which are approved from 1449, are almost unknown, barely mentioned even in passing, or they're treated as some legend in books, as if like they were some point on an ancient map, right? Well, it's true that the sanctuary and monastery were destroyed by Napoleon, and that the war in 1936, that would be the Spanish Civil War, didn't leave a single stone upon another. But we shouldn't forget what happened in 1449, right? In that year, the village was, it only had a small, simple church. It was tiny, right? And the population there was quite forgetful of what they needed to do for God. And it says that their sins were so great that it seemed even to them that the hand of God must be hovering over the land, ready to punish them. So we're told of a young girl at the age of 12 called Inés or Ives or Agnes of simple birth, right? But she was somewhat different from the other girls her age because she fasted, went to confession regularly, and daily prayed the 15 mysteries of the Rosary, right? Maybe it was her deep faith that explains what happened next. It was Monday, March 3rd of 1449, and Agnes or Inés or whoever was tending pigs on the outskirts of town, when at noon a woman appeared, bright and beautiful and clothed in gold. She was surrounded by light and asked Inés what she was doing. And Inés told her, I'm tending the pigs. Our Lady then said that the people were no longer keeping fasts, and then told Inés about the need for fasting. She said that the people in town, in Cubas, needed to change their ways, confess, and cease all their offenses against God, or he would punish them. There would be a great plague that would come upon them, and many would die. Perhaps knowing the hard-heartedness of these people, she asked if she or her mother or father would die from this, and she was told only that it would be as God desired. And then the lady disappeared. So at first, Inés didn't tell anybody of the incident, because she thought nobody would believe her, right? On Tuesday, March 4th, Inés was once again tending the pigs at a different location. And at the same time of day at noon, just as happened the day before, Our Lady reappeared. So she asked Inés if she had told the people what she had been told to say. And Inés said, I can't, right? People won't believe me. Our Lady then commanded Inés to warn the people once again, and said that if they didn't believe, she would give a sign, right? Inés asked the lady who she was, but she said she wouldn't tell her. Finally, Inés decided to tell her father, Alfonso Martinez, who didn't pay any attention to the events. He told Inés to be quiet whenever she tried to tell anyone about it. Well, on Friday, March 7th, Inés was taking care of the pigs again in another location, when once again Our Lady reappeared. Again, she asked Inés if she had told what she had been commanded to say. Inés said she told her mother and father and many others. Our Lady told Inés to publish what had been said to all the people without any fear. So when Inés went home that day, she told her parents what had happened. Her father told her she was lying to shut up, but her mother encouraged Inés, saying, then say it. By Sunday, March 9th, word had spread. A priest, Juan González, with some other men, went to Inés's house and talked to her parents. Afterwards, the priest went to say Mass. Inés went out with the pigs, accompanied by her brother, out to a place called La Chiroleda. It was a watery meadow that the pigs liked, right? She left her brother after a time looking for one of the pigs who had slipped away, and then she soon lost sight of her brother. All by herself, she knelt down on the soft earth, asking the lady to return. And again the lady appeared as before, telling Inés to rise. "Lady, who are you?" "I am the Virgin Mary," the lady answered, and approached Inés, taking her right hand and squeezed her fingers and thumb together, making some kind of a sign. She then told Inés to go to the church and show the sign to the people as they left Mass. Inés told her brother to watch after the pigs and went to the church, arriving just as Mass was letting out. She was crying and went to kneel before the altar of Mary. There, she told everyone what had happened. Now, it's not clear exactly what sign was left in Inés's hand, but whatever it was, the people examined it and many believed. Right? The following day, the priest led the important people of the town and the faithful in a procession to the place of the last apparition, carrying a wooden cross. When they arrived, Inés walked forward alone with a cross. The Virgin Mary herself took the cross, telling Inés to have a church built there in her honor. So the cross was permanently placed where the Virgin, Our Lady of Apparitions, had been seen last. And many miracles occurred there, including, we're told, 11 people who came back to life. Right? The church was built shortly after the apparitions were approved, and it stood there for nearly 5 centuries when it was destroyed in the Spanish Civil War in 1936. Many of the nuns there were martyred. Right? According to tradition, Inés ended her life in the monastery of Santa Maria de la Cruz after having children and being widowed. It says that anybody who goes there to visit with faith receives special graces, and till this day, miracles still occur. So then we go to Germany, to Marian in den Grummen in Cologne, in the North Rhine-Westphalia region of Germany. On March 2nd, 1945, British bombers destroyed St. Columba's Church in Cologne. Alone in the rubble, the statue of the Virgin remained against one upright pillar. After the war, a chapel was built on the site, incorporating the ruins, and the statue from around 1465 was installed on its eastern wall behind the altar. Right? Very beautiful, beautiful church. Right? Since 2007, the chapel and associated ruins have been enclosed in the concrete building of the Archdiocesan Museum, known simply as the Columba, or the Museum of Thoughtfulness. But fortunately, the chapel is open daily for prayer, mass, and confessions. Lastly, they also celebrate today the memory of Santa Maria in Cosmedin in Rome. It's a church. I guess it's also called La Diaconia de Santa Maria in Cosmedin, right? A church built by Pope Stephen II. Which he built around the one from Pope Gregory I in the 600s, right? In antiquity, it was known also by the name of Santa Maria in Schola Greca, like St. Mary in the Greek school. And that is what we're celebrating today in the Marian world on March 2nd. For today's Marian meditation, taken from the book by Father Ildefonso Villar, we continue with Meditation 43 on the purification of Our Lady. Here we'll consider her obedience. She was not bound by that law, and well she knew it. Her conception and the miraculous birth of Jesus was the work of the Holy Spirit. She had been greeted, blessed among women, on account of the wonders wrought in her by the virtue of the Almighty, acclaimed the one who could be called blessed by all generations to come. And yet, in spite of all her greatness, she does not exempt herself from the law. When it is a question of obeying, she wants no privilege. And just like an ordinary woman, as though nothing extraordinary had happened in her, she willingly submits to the common law. Consequently, after 40 days, she starts on her journey to Jerusalem, thus being, as her son, a model of obedience. How this example should confound us. What a difference between her obedience and our own. How often, without sufficient reason, we consider ourselves exempt from obeying, even in cases where obedience does not demand from us humiliations and sacrifices, which in any case are never greater than those of Our Lady on this occasion. Our Lady's obedience was heroic, since the sacrifice entailed by it was, as we are going to see, highly humiliating. So for today's reading from the Admirable Heart of Mary, we will continue reading from chapter 5, The Divine Sovereignty Mirrored in the Admirable Heart of Mary. If you recall, St. John Eudes is drawing these parallels between God's perfections, God the Father's perfections, and how they are mirrored or imitated or copied, as it were, in Mary. Let us listen again to St. Peter Damian. He who governs all things with sovereign authority subjected himself to his mother. A simple maid can give orders to him whom all things obey. All things, says Saint Bernardine of Siena, are subject to the divine power, even the Virgin Mother. All things in God himself are subject to Mary. For it was written that her Son obeyed her, and he was subject to them. That's from Luke 2:51. Behold two great prodigies, writes Saint Bernard, which must fill heaven and earth with admiration. It is a marvelous thing to witness God's supreme majesty, lowered and humbled to the point of obeying a woman. There is no other example of such a prodigy of humility. And it is most admirable to behold a woman raised to such greatness that she is endowed with the right to command God himself. So marvelous a dignity knows no peer. St. Peter Damian says, every creature should remain profoundly and respectfully silent, trembling at the sight of so wonderful an object, and not daring to look up at the sublime height and immensity of such great dignity and so exalted a power. By all these pronouncements, you see that we have a queen and a mother who, after God, is all-powerful in her person, in her name, and in her prayers. She holds sovereign sway over every creature, and wields a marvelous power over the Creator himself. Thus does the sovereign Lord of all things communicate his adorable sovereignty to the great Queen of the universe, and consequently to her royal heart. For if she be queen, her heart is king. If she be sovereign, her heart is sovereign like unto herself. And if she have all power in heaven and on earth, so does her immaculate heart.
Hello, and we hope that you enjoyed listening to our Marian podcast. In the spirit of Saint Bernard of Clairvaux, we say to you that there is no greater delight than to spread the devotion of Our Lady. We hope you share these sentiments and encourage you greatly to share with a loved one. Know that you are always in our prayers, and we ask that you keep us in yours. God bless.